Train Sim News Show was recorded in front of a live studio audience, in exchange for the safe return of their wife, children, family members, and contents of their wallets.
Well, this is awkward. Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 45 of the Train Sim News Show. That's right, an episode of the Train Sim News Show uploaded in 2023, August 2023. This is not a drill, you are not under the influence of drugs, or anything like that. I'll explain, but I also want to make it clear. This is not a return to Train Sim news content. Stuff that this is going to be the last episode, at least, unless something utterly over the top happens. Unless something like that happens, this is going to be the last episode. This is the finale. The reason why I'm making another episode is, well, basically, after I finished the last episode, I felt like it didn't end properly. It wasn't a proper finale. It felt like it felt like a cliffhanger, and I don't like leaving people on cliffhangers. So I thought, well, let's do a finale episode as a nice treat for people, because some have just finished their GCSEs, their A levels, have just gone through university, and for that I have to say, congratulations. I hope you got the results you were looking for. The road only gets steeper from here. So here's your treat of a nice episode idea I came up with. The top 10 stupid nonsense I experienced in Train Sim. I don't have more of a catchy title than that. The ground rules are as follows: no Discord drama because that's not really workable, and it must be something I've experienced whilst I've been playing the game. Oh, and to make sure this counts as a news show episode, let's go over some news. Train Sim World 4 has been announced. Okay, now let's begin the video. Let's start with number 10, Blue Rail Studios. Yeah, I have my reasons for putting these lads on the list. They were the first people I covered in my videos after all the way back in 2015. Oh my goodness, wow. I didn't even have a beard back then. Well, okay, so Blue Rail Studios were a third-party developer for Train Sim that made reskins and scenarios of quality, hyping themselves out to be slightly better than they were. Perfect to have a laugh at, I thought, since they made some promo videos of the sort. The guys at Blue Rail didn't like how random internet stranger number 2,694,857,981 didn't like their purple prose laden videos, and thus decided, instead of taking the mature approach and just ignore it, because ignoring people on the internet never works, invoke takedown no jitsu against me with false copyright strikes. Of course, I got the videos back up rather quickly as soon as the owners realised that he had no legal standing in this issue. That is to say, once I got the video back, the only option to keep it down would have been to take me to court. And to be honest, Portsmouth magistrates have plenty of better things to do than deal with us, such as stopping people trafficking seagulls to the Isle of Wight. After that, Blue Rail Studios kept a low profile, making the odd reskin here and there. Towards the end of their time in the game, they rebranded to SimView, but by then their overall relevance in Train Sim had faded to below insignificance and had closed up shop for good sometime in 2021, never to be seen again. Blue Rail are on this list not only because of the silliness of how we, let's be honest, both dealt with the situation, but also upon further thinking, it highlighted to me that kids make for rubbish owners, or admins, or moderators. Shocking, I know, but it's something I've seen happen a fair few times over and over, especially in Train Sim. To put it simply, kids typically don't have the necessary leadership, social, teamwork, and or management skills to work effectively to run these kinds of third-party developers or projects things. I know that they don't, because back in school, I did these things called group projects. Enough said. Just to clarify, to say that all kids are bad and all adults are good like it's some episode of the codename Kids Next Door is not what I'm trying to get at. In fact, you will see plenty of adult bozos on this list as we go along. Also, kids just typically lack the wisdom to be in higher positions like this, and thus to deal with situations that can happen effectively. To use a game example, like with stats, intelligence and wisdom are typically different stats. Intelligence is knowing how an AK-47 works. Wisdom is knowing not to look down the barrel and pull the trigger. A bit of a tip for anyone who could potentially experience this in the future. If you're bringing someone on board your team who thinks Sonic.exe, Hello Neighbor, or the Russian sleep experiment are pinnacles of horror, there's a chance that the kid would be better off joining once they've grown up. Kids make stupid decisions all the time. And if you're one of the kids who are watching these videos going, oh no, that could never happen to me, it will happen to you. It will happen to you. It will. I have plenty of stories of embarrassing moments from my childhood, which I may or may not share in stream when I feel like streaming again, but that's purely for the future. Number 9. Payware scenarios are still dumb and stupid.
Hate, let me tell you.
Okay, I won't use the whole speech. It should come to a shock to nobody that my stance on payware scenarios remains unchanged since my earlier PowerPoint video going over the topic. Again, I have no issue with people wanting to play scenarios in this game. If you enjoy driving from London to Peterborough, stopping only in Stevenage, there and back, then that's fine, I'm not going to lose any sleep. Now, the problem is when you pay money for these scenarios and begin rewarding people who, let's be honest, are self-aggrandizing at best or show next to zero respect for the players outside of how much money they can wring out of you. Remember that scenario that was behind a paywall because the creator didn't want people accidentally downloading it? You know, because every time I'm on the computer, I'm always, oh dang it, I just bought myself an Enviro 400 again. Dang it, eBay, you and your tricks! These same people will also say that they spent lots of hard work and effort into these scenarios, which, of course, I respond to as respectfully and as humanely as possible. Look, scenarios are glorified text files. And that's not me being some nihilist, we live in the society, bottom text kind of person. They are. Just look on the directory here. These files just tell the game where the train should go, what time they should run, stuff like that. You're not making assets. Very few times have I even seen people add announcements. And you don't need additional software to make them outside of a PDF viewer and an internet connection. What, are you going to tell me you deserve the Victoria Cross for adding a little bit of scripting on your extremely unique and never been done before London to Orpington stopping service scenario? All of the heavy lifting has been done by other people, especially those who have archived timetables from the early 2000s and beyond, who you will totally credit in your readmes, right? So, I ask you once more, what makes your scenario so good that it has to be behind a paywall, let alone a paywall that could be north of £30 in some instances? If you're struggling to answer this rather easy question, may I suggest taking the following advice on how to sell scenarios for Train Simulator. Don't. So for number 8, I'm going to put a specific piece of DLC on the list. Naturally, I should go with the maglev route or the Class 700, but I'm instead going to go with a route that had the potential to be good, but then the clock turned 5 PM, so oh no. Those two being the West Coast Main Line London to Birmingham and Cross City add-ons. I've actually reviewed the former route already in a separate video, since it was that bad. For a refresher, the route showcase on the stream was laughable, there were multiple inaccuracies with the speed signs and modelling, a lack of markers and portals that made making scenarios a pain, and of course optimization was pretty bad too. Now, to give Dovetail credit where credit is due, they apologised not too long after making this add-on on their forums, and in more recent versions of the routes, some of these issues have now been addressed. So why am I still putting it on the list? Well, again, the route had lots of potential that has still not been realised after 3 years. There's still no Bakerloo Line model for AI, no Class 710, no Class 730, and no Northampton Loop, which puts a chokehold on both passenger and freight scenarios on the route. Sure, it's nice that I can do the full intercity service from London to Birmingham, but I can't really do much else that isn't a slower or truncated version of that service. This issue also extends to the Cross-City add-on. Whilst it's nice to have Bromsgrove, Redditch and Lichfield in the game, not having the chase line to Walsall and Wolverhampton again puts a massive chokehold on scenario potential, both for passenger and freight. Who is going to say, why yes, I'd like a route in Birmingham, but whatever you do, do not go to Walsall. To add, there's also no depot at Soho, so if you wanted to do the last cross-city service of the day that sorts off into the depot at Soho, you can't because reasons. The 323 included in that route was so bad I had to warn people about it in a dedicated video. Even if the sounds were actually recorded from the real thing, the mixing and scripting for them were garbage. Little has been done to improve it to a standard I've been happy with, despite multiple people trying over the years, so I haven't touched it for a while, same for the routes as well. It was also entertaining to see one of the people who worked on this add-on try and prop up the review score a bit with one of his own reviews. Very sad, I know, but yeah, these two add-ons have the potential to be good, but we can't have nice things in this day and age, right? Speaking of which, for number 7, I don't know about you, but does anyone else miss when video games and content for video games was sold finished? Or at the very least functional? I've already talked about Dovetail's inconsistency, as well as it happening to other developers multiple times in the Train Sim News show, and it's slightly concerning that it's becoming more and more of a frequent issue. People don't want to finish anything, but they still want the money, even though they don't want to do their part of the deal first. Now sure, making a patch to fix an issue outside of your control, like for example a Windows update, isn't a problem. Far from it, it shows that you're attentive and I can respect that. Even small patches to tweak gameplay and textures are fine too. It's when you're using your customers as beta testers by selling them incomplete cowpats that I have a problem. We've already seen this issue with the previous number on the list, but I'm fairly certain that I could choose an add-on at random from Steam and see just how poor the quality is in comparison to something else that has been made. People try and defend the schizophrenic quality of the content made by saying that we should be grateful that it's been made in the first place. No, 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 no. That is not what gratefulness is. I am grateful that I have access to healthcare, food, a roof over my head, electricity, and clean, albeit hard, drinking water. I'm not grateful that a niche video game developer made a crap product multiple times across a decade and a half. In more recent products, Dovetail have even put in disclaimers in their manuals that read more like, "Don't go too hard on me, daddy," and I promise to never ever say that again on my channel. Also, I don't ask for perfection, I'm just asking for something to be good. Decent at worst, but preferably good. Something I'd feel comfortable recommending to another human being. If you're the kind of person who asks for a sausage roll and is perfectly content with being given a packet of Tesco puff pastry and some uncooked pork because we didn't have enough time to put it in the oven, then you should probably raise your bar of acceptance. At least high enough that you can trip over it, for your sake. Okay, number 6. I'd expect most of you to put this one higher on the list, but since my engagement has been reduced over the years, I think number 6 is good enough for this list. That being said, it's hard to call the Train Sim community a welcoming environment, no? Some internet noobs would be mistaken to think that the Train Sim community is the worst on the internet. Unfortunately, there are paedophile acceptance rings on the internet with their own fair share of branding and propaganda, including one individual who describes himself as, and I quote, a pro-contact law-abiding paedophile. Oh goodness, I can't even finish the sentence. Please understand that I humbly disagree with that position. Some people would also describe the community as toxic, which is a word I don't use since, much like gaslighting and problematic, it's a word that has been twisted and diluted over the years on the internet. Using a powerful weapon in a video game is now considered toxic, for example. No, if someone asked me what the Train Sim community is like in this day and age, I'd most likely answer with, it depends on where you are and what you do. Because of how fragmented the game's player base is, I'm only going to focus on the UK side of the train sim community. You are more than welcome to share any other of your favourite horror stories and antics that have happened in your own respective communities, however. The comment section exists for that particular reason. We've already gone over some real nutcase incidents in the train sim community. One of my favourite ones was when Mr. Horsefield plastered someone's face over porn because he didn't like him. I think the guy is around 30 to 40 years old. Definitely an adult, at least. When I made a video going over it, bringing the attention to the sheer disgust me and other people had for this, he got real upset, furiously writing a comment containing more sodium chloride per cubic meter than the Dead Sea, and it was just begging for a reply in the next news show episode.
Go on, get angry, you fucking loser! Get all nice and salty for me!
He's even made some uncalled comments about me and my mum, because there's nothing that gets his blood pumping more than punching down. I mean, that's how comedy works after all. You don't pick fights with the US Army against their near infinite supply of tanks, Apaches and submarines. You go after Dennis the Menace. One of the more recent antics I was watching unfold happen was with the Class 60 revamp pack thingy done by Major Wales. We haven't actually talked about the Dovetail Class 60 on these videos. It sucks. It uses the default Kuju HSD sounds. Don't even pirate it unless you lost a bet. Anyway, I do feel sorry for the guy ever since he started making mods and reskins for Train Sim. He seems to get wrapped up working with people who can be best described as Redditors in training, and that's me being nice. Like when people were harassing him earlier about his IET project and even spreading rumours that he was a paedophile because one GIF had the phrase lolly in it. You know, it's just like the playground back in year 4. Did you hear Samantha stalked Charlie last night? Ooh! Back to the Class 60 revamp. Once it was released, word started to fly around accusing Major Wales of stealing scripting in order to make it, and so many people dogpiled on him and continued to make mean comments even on his other projects. I didn't dogpile him because, unfortunately for them, I abide by this rather insignificant bit of information listed here on the Declaration of Human Rights. I know, it's horrible. Imagine using rational thinking on the internet. I can only imagine what's going through the minds of the fools peddling those rumors.
That's immoral. War crime this, code of conduct that.
Even when I pressed for some evidence and motive of the alleged theft, all I got was an image with less pixels than the Sega CD's resolution, and the person making the comments suddenly deleted them as I was replying. Spooky. Honestly, it just feels like the reason why this rumor was started was that another user called Mr. Benjamin was making another 60 modification, and he was upset because he wanted to improve it first, forgetting that the stakes on this matter couldn't be lower if you tried. Where? I want to make patches and reskins for the 60. Then make patches and reskins for the 60! People are still going to download it, after all, or better yet, work on your behaviour and attitude so that other creators will at least consider working with you. Now, there is a chance some people will say, Daniel, go easy on them, they may be autistic, have ADD or something like that. Yeah, cool story bro, post it to threads. I'm more annoyed that you're using disability as an excuse for their behaviour rather than to explain their behaviour. Heck, I even hate the phrase neurodivergence. It makes it feel like you're trying to play off my disability as a superpower, or not as a big of a deal. No, I am not better than you because my brain doesn't work as well as yours when it comes to social interactions. Please stop making out as if it is and sifting for Twitter browning points, which I should remind you are worth £0 and 0 pence in the real world. Thank you. Of course, these are only but a few examples of antics I've witnessed, and I could probably go on all day about other mishaps and skirmishes, but because I want this video uploaded before August the 31st, 2026, I won't. Bottom line is this: I don't expect you to get along with every person on the planet. If you have an issue with someone, it's best to deal with it in a private and adult manner. This isn't a primary school playground anymore, so please stop acting like it is. And if you're really confused as to why people don't want to play this game or interact with the community, first start looking at your own personality, and enough with the rumour mill crap, please. Thank you. For number 5, I'm going to stick you in the TARDIS and give you a free ride back to 2009, the days of BBM, playing Heartbroken by T2 on the back of the H25 bus on the way home from school, and of course, the Euro Shopper energy drinks from Londis. Oh, and I guess the Iron Horse House was making stuff for Train Simulator. Mr. Godber, the Nottinghamshire-based developer, was making content for the game before it got popular as it was today. He mainly focused on old BR Blue stuff and the odd steamer as well. His portfolio was quite large, including obscure trains like the Class 28, and even a breakdown crane which was animated rather well, all on his own too, and that's something I respect. But that's as far as the respect goes, I'm afraid. I've described the Iron Horse House as the Amy's baking company of the train sim community, but I'm having second thoughts on that for reasons you will find out later. Anyway, the quality of his trains were very bleh, to say the least. Modelling was alright I guess, but the textures were quite dark, almost as if he had his monitor set to maximum brightness or something. He also disallowed people making reskins and or modifications to his work, including sounds. I understand if you're just not a fan of fictional content as a whole, which is a shame because I love fictional reskins, especially when they are believable or maybe they're just cursed for a good laugh here and there. But trying to enforce a no repaint rule is just, well, pathetic. No one person has the manpower to go after every single person making reskins of your work, especially if said person doesn't even know if a reskin even exists or not. So don't. Besides, it's not like he was making every single livery for his trains anyway. The sounds of his trains were garbage, and I remember seeing an odd clash with him and Mr. Armstrong, which even saw him spitefully re-upload the Armstrong Powwow's Class 20 sound pack as a improved version without Mr. Armstrong say so. Whether it was improved or not, I can't say, because I didn't try it because, got better things to do. There were even arguments between him and UKTS since he was supposedly argumentative on the forums and the Gestapo, the moderators kept pruning his posts, so he began to make legal threats to them. Now of course, if I was in UKTS's position, with someone telling me to 1v1 them in Cough Nottingham Crown Court, I'd simply call the bluff. Again, courts and lawyers are both massive financial drains and time sinks. And if you have enough in the bank to afford a lawyer that doesn't say, "Your Honour, my client is simply built different," then odds are you're not making content for Train Simulator. Just to remind you, this is content for a niche, within a niche, within a niche, within a niche, within a niche. That fact sadly didn't pass through Mr. Pendleton's head, and he simply banned all discussion about the Iron Horse House on UKTS from January 2011. This was going fine for a while, with Mr. Godber using Facebook as his primary source of communication. Well, until February 2013, in which he got 360 no-scoped by the Advertising Standards Authority due to misleading tax claims. He was then subsequently banished to the Shadow Realm, exiled from the Train Simulator community, and forced to sell most of his stuff to Dovetail for them to resell as they please, away from his silly clauses about reskins and enhancements. For things that weren't resold, such as the Class 28 and the Breakdown Crane, you'll have to sell the 7 Seas for those, I'm afraid. Not much has been heard from him since, though I do remember he was making some sort of simulator in UE4. I'll chuck some footage of it here, but there really wasn't much I could say other than neat. I even found some footage of him performing some tunes at Wily Fest, which, apart from happening on the same day I'm recording this, seems to be some sort of northern Glastonbury. Make your own jokes there. Honestly, I think this outcome was for the best, the good ending if you will. The last thing we needed is another Jupiter-sized ego in the game. Even if you made rather unique trains and did most or all the work by yourself, not being able to take feedback and criticism in meaningful ways, as well as alienate your own player base via hostility and non-cooperation, was just asking for your castle to sink into the swamp. He's clearly moved on and learnt his lesson, which is kind of funny because the next ones on this list clearly haven't. Number 4, and let's be honest, this one should be number 1, the DLC model. Now, it's true that the amount of DLC in this game isn't the most of all games for sale or anything like that. For example, Game Rant only ranks Train Simulator at number 6 of their list of games with the most expensive amount of DLC, below games such as Path of Exile and Star Citizen. But that is in no way justifying the sheer amount of DLC in this game. Mocking the amount of DLC Train Sim has is pretty much mandatory in one way or another, and it's a shame because I think DLC as a concept can be done right. When done right, you get games like Sonic Unleashed. You pay money and you get extra levels with increased difficulty that are fun to speedrun, practice honing your reaction skills, and it's all yours for just 10 a penny. When done wrong, you end up with games like Smash Bros. 4, with characters like Bayonetta and Cloud, which were basically buying power, if anybody remembers how fun it was getting comboed into the blast zone because you got hit once by Bayonetta's extremely fun combos, and there was basically nothing you could do about it. Or how Cloud was so good in doubles that events decided to ban some of his strategy due to him warping the meta. So what's the issue in Train Simulator? Well, whilst it's true that you don't have to buy all the DLC to play the game, as so many people will parrot to you, the player will eventually be pressured into getting DLC due to how this game is structured. It's basically DLC for DLC for DLC, and I'll prove it by using one route as an example, London to Brighton. With this route, you only get the Class 377 and a 450, mainly for AI at Clapham Junction. But what about the 455 for local services? DLC. Want to see some Gatwick Express services? DLC. Obviously, there's 2 to 3 trains that have run these services in the past that are obviously separate DLC on Steam, and one of them has significantly more detail than the other. Want to see the Class 700? DLC. Mind you, this route takes place before they were a thing, so you'll actually need the 319, though buying the one on Steam will get you mocked by the community due to its low quality. You'll actually need to buy the one from the third-party Armstrong Powerhouse, but make sure you get the right one, otherwise you'll be missing the correct liveries, you dummy. What's that? You want to do London to Reigate services? Oh, that's gonna cost you extra, I'm afraid, man. I'm sorry, does this sound a bit excessive to you? Keep in mind, I'm ignoring things like sound packs and enhancements to improve the 377 or other trains I've mentioned, the lack of 456, and the lack of freight trains that you'd see on the line. It doesn't take too long for people to start spending triple, and in some terrible cases, quadruple digits on DLC for the game. Look, when the total DLC cost is equal to that of a new car straight from the showroom, it shouldn't come as a shocker that people begin to don their pirate hats here and there. If we were to turn the clock back to the days of MSTS, especially with the Great Eastern route by making tracks, you'll see that you've got a large amount of route mileage to drive on. In this case, every single branch line south of Ipswich, as well as a healthy amount of rolling stock to use, including the Class 8, 31, 37, 47, 86, 150, 302, 305, 309, 315, both variants of the 317, 321, Mark II coaches with a drivable DBSO of course, plenty of freight wagons and some AI underground rolling stock to boot. You pretty much get every single train that ran on the line during that period with the exception of the 312, but don't worry, the community already had that one covered. A few years after, they even made an expansion pack called the Great Eastern 2, offering even more rolling stock mainly from the modern era, such as the Class 66, 56, and I believe the Class 90 and Mark III DVT, the route extended to Norwich, and a neat little era switcher that changed the station textures between modern day and Network Southeast. That's really cute, I like that. Yes, I am very much aware that modelling and texturing for MSTS isn't nearly as demanding and resource heavy as it is for the Railwork series, but it would also be nice to at least order a sandwich that has some bread without people whining about how difficult it is to make a sandwich. I would rather have a route released every single 5 years that had a large amount of content than something released every 2 weeks with sod all to do. Most routes released nowadays don't make any sense from a logical standpoint. There's Southampton to Bournemouth, which, thanks to the stupid mileage of that, doesn't feature Bournemouth Depot or Eastleigh, the most noob location to film trains at. You're not a true train spotter unless you have filmed at Eastleigh, it's a rite of passage. Then there's Munich to Rosenheim, a pitifully short route despite Salzburg being 50 miles away, and a much more appropriate terminus, London to Peterborough had the Hertford Loop added as track work, but no scenery. Oh well, I'm guessing they were planning to fix that one up later, where later in this case is nearly a decade ago, and the less we speak about the Reigate extension, the better. Goodness gracious, if Dovetail played Yu-Gi-Oh! The only card they would bring is Pot of Greed. This is insipid, and they seem to get away with this because they've cultivated a community of people who have ludicrously low standards and are happy to be used like a doormat. I've even seen people defend the low quality of the add-ons they make because it'll be improved later. Just like how the Class 402 has been improved. Oh wait. I meant the 45, sorry, the 45! Oh yeah, it doesn't have a sound pack. The 35, yeah, the 35 got oh well, yeah, it doesn't have a sound pack. Well, at least the 378 has a sound pack, right? Well, of course not. Well, not anymore. We'll talk about that later. Do you see the problem here? That mindset only works if something actually gets improved. Mind you, I don't remember popping into Curry's PC World to buy a DeLonghi enhancement pack for my kettle just so it can boil properly. It's still a horrible mindset to have it anyway, if you ask me. Mind you, you laugh, but we are living in a world where BMW is wringing out as much money from people by putting features on a car that are already installed behind paywalls and monthly subscriptions, including an £80 fee to ensure your sat-nav is up to date.
You best start believing in cyberpunk dystopia.
Yeah, we get the picture, but seriously, this kind of crap will just keep happening and happening. My maths teacher warned us about those who will take advantage of you, especially when it comes to finances, and thus, why learning maths is way more important than it seems. You seriously need to exercise some restraint because this DLC isn't going to drastically improve in quality anytime soon if you just keep rewarding subpar products. How do I know this? It's 2023. The game was released in 2007. Work it out from there. Number 3. What? Alan Thompson's sim is a number 1? How could you? Simple. I think the top 2 have done more damage to the community. But only slightly. I've lost count as to how many times we've spoken about Alan Thompson Sim and his cartel cronies on this channel. In fact, if you're paying attention, we've already gone over a few already. The script theft rumour, I believe, originated from some low-level ATS goons, and the aforementioned sodium chloride dispenser Mr. Horsefield is one of his cronies too. Oh yeah, this is happening! To save time, I don't want to go over everything that has gone on with these people, and instead give a quick overview of the old stuff and cover some of the new things that have happened. If you want a more in-depth explanation, then I recommend watching episode 42. To sum up, ATS is pretty much an alternative to UKTS for uploading and downloading content for Train Simulator. It has a subscription scheme that is overpriced and offers minuscule content or discounts. The community-created content is usually harmless, and goodness me, he brands his name everywhere. ATS routes, ATS overhead wires, ATS level crossing pack. Major Wales was even sent legal threats because he called the Class 185 the Imbu 185 instead of the ATS and Imbu 185. They've even added a line onto their EULA stating that you must name the product by its full name. Train Simulator? More like Vanity Simulator, if you know what I'm saying. Bloody hell, when I first started planning this section, I almost completely forgot about how petty Mr. Allen and his cronies could be. You know, for Train Simulator content. Why take someone to court because they named your product wrong? At least something as insignificant as the ATS Imbu 185. Imagine getting 6 months imprisonment in Wakefield and 3 years bad juju because you didn't stroke Mr. Allen's dick enough. I bet I know what even the most underpaid judge would tell him if he was presented a case like this.
That ridiculous man hasn't realized his weakness. His stupidity is beyond belief.
Speaking of vanity, does anyone fancy an ATS branded mug? Anyone? Come on, it's all yours for just a tenner. I mean, I wouldn't get one unless I was in some sort of hostage negotiation or something, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Mind you, I kinda do need a new mug after my last one broke. But I'm thinking I'd like to have one with an image with more, space alien. I have no shame, leave me alone. Even the 185, which was heavily anticipated for all these years, was just okay? I mean, the sounds were alright, and I did give it a spin, and 7 years in the making to result in Nissan GTR acceleration and magnets for brakes. I think I'll just pass for now. It's certainly not worth £27, that's for sure. And then there was this, the USB AWS button. That's right, for 30 of your cold hard pounds, you can have a glorified Q key on your desk. Many people laughed at it, even if it sold enough to go out of stock. But to come to think of it, he did make a video going over and promoting it, so why don't we check it out? I'll ignore EATS grievances for the time being and just see if he can sell this to me. Play the clip, we don't need the obligatory transition, just play it.
The plunger itself, I've been calling it a button, and I keep having to stop myself from calling it a button. It's definitely a plunger. The action on it has been, how to say this without sounding weird, tested, and tested.
Upon my first viewing of this, I thought that was an STD joke, but then I realised what it actually was. Testing products and gaming peripherals in this day and age, that's actually a criminal offence. No wonder he's nervous.
So we have made sure that we have tried every single train cab we have been able to get access to, and compared it with the buttons that we were able to get hold of at a rate that was decent enough for us.
For a free laugh, imagine Alan and his cronies pulling up to Ely Papworth in a rented transit van, then pulling out some stepladder to get over the fence, and then bringing some car thief tools so they could get into the cab of the 317 to test the buttons. I'm not saying they actually did that, I just have a vivid imagination.
It's taken about 5 or 6 plungers, I think, to pick on this one, so we now have this action.
What the fuck? Yeah, obvious joke is obvious. Sorry, I'm addicted to explosions, I can't help it.
Some of the other ones you can buy like this, just go do. This one has the actual feel, so you know it's been pressed, which is very much like the real world AWS buttons.
Alright, cool. Why is it 30 quid? It's just a button, or plunger. Really, where is the money going to? My controller here, which I use for playing games, which obviously you can't see because I'm just recording the audio, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 buttons, plus 2 analog sticks and a D-pad. I bought that for €30 in Antwerp, which, thanks to Liz Truss, is basically 30 quid. That can do more, and it's effectively the same price. So I'm not impressed. Though at the very least, let's see it in action.
So let's get our master key on first, and let's get us into neutral. So straight away I can cancel.
Well, it works alright.
Give us the next alarm. Cancel.
As expected, I'm still not interested. In fact, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to change the rules a little bit and squeeze another one onto the list. Number 2.5, TS controllers. Sweet Tracy Emmett. What the hell is going on with all these prices? No, really. Here's one of the controllers. Just some HST style levers. Take a guess at how much these would cost, ignoring shipping. You have 3 seconds. Well, it's a range, and the price starts at £390. £390, that's the kind of money you spend on mid-range washing machines. Goodness. Now, to be fair, I did see a cheaper version, just as a combined brake and power lever, or whatever you call it, which also includes a reverser, a master key, and a horn. For £250. So, this, or a microwave oven. I've sat down and done the maths, and if you were to buy all that stuff from TS controller, ignoring the power brake controller, it would cost you £570. I could only imagine some poor sod buying all these little controllers and buttons in a family, and then the wife goes, "Sorry kids, we can't go to Lanzarote this year. Your father spent all our money on some game pads? I don't know, he just won't tell me what they are without going into 5-page diatribes." By the way, shipping is free, but international shipping outside the UK costs £35. Or to all one of my viewers from Singapore, I'll calculate it for you to factor in that new import tax. So, if you were to get it delivered to Singapore, it would cost you all of the contents of your wallet plus installments to your local triads. I think that's rather reasonable. Now, they have responded to the high prices, saying that they need them to be high in order to be a profitable business. Naturally, I think that if you have to sell things at stupidly high prices to remain profitable,
then what you have isn't very profitable.
do I have to repeat that this game is within 5 levels of a niche? I wouldn't spend anywhere near that much on a controller, even if I was forced to. Rail Driver costs £170, and it does more than one thing. And yes, to the people who say that Rail Driver isn't compatible with some trains, I know, and it's on the creators of said trains to cooperate and make it compatible. Overall, the problem with the ATS cartel is that they want to be a serious company, but they don't act serious themselves. Getting upset because I said your site sucks and you have to resort to poorly formatted legal threats, someone naming your product wrong, and even having to resort to changing the EULA to demand that people name them right even when you yourselves haven't done it in the past. Gordon Bennett, you guys wouldn't last a second on a 2008 Xbox Live lobby. Also, remember what I said about punching down and Court being a time sink? Whatever. Oh, and just to shoehorn in regarding the bit of seriousness, if you go back on the store and look on the credits section of the Cambridge to Peterborough route, you'll see this little bit here. Geordie helped with this product, but did not want to be publicly credited. As you can tell, they did so anyway. Class act. Taken from someone who's worked on a film set, working with people of different degrees of fame, if you did something like that on the larger scale of work, you could get fined and blacklisted, at best. Heck, if the info is serious enough, you would be sent to a place worse than the Shadow Realm. Thamesmead! Well, Belmarsh prison, but
Shh, don't ruin the joke.
But yeah, cronies, clowns, and people who live off vanity. Combine them together and you get ATS! Woo! Number 2. There's a good chance that you are thinking, well, obviously Dovetail should be on the list somewhere, at least in the top 3, considering they've been spearheading this game into the rocks for years. And, yeah, I agree with that perspective. Unfortunately, there's just one small problem. The Armstrong powerhouse exists. I know putting Mr. Armstrong above Alan and his cronies on a list of stupid nonsense I've seen in Train Sim is quite a bold claim to make, but I hope you can see why I've done it once I've finished explaining. Now, Mr. Armstrong has been in the Train Sim community making content for longer than some of my viewers have even been alive. It's quite the CV to have, since not many people can raise their hand and say that they've been making stuff for both MSTS and the Railworks series. For the purposes of this discussion, his first sound pack on Railworks was for the HST, and the upload on UKTS was watered down for a better version available on his website for a small fee. The first seed planted. That's the thing, okay? I seriously think Mr. Armstrong and Co are talented people here. No, really. In an alternate timeline where I was some big budget filmmaker and I needed train sounds for a scene or something, they would be my go-to people for recording such a thing. I can at the very least respect his audio and scripting talents. But good grief, man, the way you treat your customers is bloody awful. I seriously think it started with the Mark II DBSO, as it told them that the player base would buy something that is, by its own definition, well, doesn't work, really. But it's only gone downhill from there. We have had plenty of sound packs released by them, which ranged in quality and features, and then Sound Pack Pros, which ranged in quality and features again. Some of these have since been taken off the site. Why? Reasons! Sound packs including, but not limited to, the Class 101, the 20, Mirrorlease 37, the 303, 442, 92, 57, 52, and hang on, the 52? What was wrong with the 52 sound pack? It was fine and sounded great. Oh, in fact, most of them were all fine. Why get rid of them? They've even taken down the Class 142, the Pacer. No, they haven't replaced it. It's just gone. They were even going to take down the Class 90 before people slapped them across the face saying, "Stop." I saw a comment defending this action by saying that you've only had 11 years to buy it. Firstly, not everybody starts playing the game at the same time as you did. Secondly, why are there arbitrary time limits for these products? It's not like a model railway where there could be a limited run due to materials and resource limitations. This is a digital product, so the resource is infinite. Thirdly, what about the Class 40, which took 2.5 years to make? It was claimed to be the most comprehensive train to be in the game, and then about 6 years later, gone, sent to the Shadow Realm. And finally, this encourages piracy. The only way you can now obtain some of these add-ons is by surfing the bay. This could have been resolved by just, I don't know, a bargain bin section on your store? Use it for stuff that's out of date or been superseded in some way, shape or form, and ta-da! Make it free or dirt cheap, whatever, but that alone would solve the piracy issue easily. I even saw a petition of people wanting them to bring their sound packs back. Obviously, being a petition, it worked as well as you think it did. But really, why are there so many companies nowadays just making completely retarded decisions for their businesses nowadays? Where? No one's buying my fruit? Oh, okay, well, why are you selling them? Oh, I'm not selling them, why would I do that? Who would have thought Hertfordshire would be the target of some lead poisoning epidemic or something? Not too long after Soundpack Pros came along, we were given the comical concept of enhancement packs. I was pretty critical of enhancement packs from day one. In fact, I covered the first one they did for the 91 in the Fantastic episode, if you remember.
By the way, it was £10 at the time I reviewed it, just saying.
Also in the same episode, I said this. I think it only makes sense to call those enhancement packs as well and bump the price up to $7.99 or even $9.99, or why stop there? Why not charge them at $11.99? Also, if you don't mind me asking, are you going to cut corners when you make your enhancement packs as opposed to pro packs? Or should I say, cut more corners or less corners? Oh, precognition is tight! Also, as predicted, the consistency of enhancement packs kept waving back and forth, with some getting way more detail than ever put into it than others. Even then, still didn't stop people from buying them, even when the prices rose higher and higher. Remember how the 717 didn't get a cab modelled, yet multiple cab variants were modelled for the 158 enhancement pack? Remember how the 377 got brand new passenger views modelled, yet the 91 pack didn't even have sounds recorded for the passenger view? This has predictably resulted in content such as the overpriced track enhancement pack, the very overpriced signal enhancement pack, the extremely overpriced sky and weather enhancement pack, which has since been updated to version 2 and still doesn't allow for lightning strikes because reasons, and finally culminating with the cloud enhancement pack.
This is where the fun begins.
You knew this was coming. So, I've always stood by the thought that the DBSO was the most pointless bit of content made for Train Simulator. Until now, the Cloud Enhancement Pack has now dethroned the DBSO with minimal effort. To explain the problem I have with the Cloud Enhancement Pack, apart from the fact that it's the Cloud Enhancement Pack, let's take a look at some screenshots that I've taken over the years on different routes and different weather conditions. Keep in mind that in a bunch of these shots, the original Sky and Weather Pack, not the latest 2.0 version, just the original was used. If you are looking at these pictures and say to yourself, man, those clouds look awful, then congratulations! The Armstrong Powerhouse have found their one, singular, customer for this product! Woo! Please tell us, how does it feel to be a complete sap? Did you by any chance buy some dirt cheap tickets for the 2011 Bahrain Grand Prix? And are you still sad about the decline of... I can't finish the joke. I'm sorry, I can't even finish this. Yes, I'm being harsh right here. But as demonstrated multiple times over the years, the Armstrong Powerhouse cares about you, the customer, in the same way that the coalition government cared about building houses. There's nothing stopping them from making a Cloud Enhancement Pack 2.0, like what they did with the 175, the Sky and Weather Enhancement Packs, and to an extent the HSTs, and then charging you again for it. Oh, by the way, Quiz Trains recently overhauled and updated most of his trains with improved scripting, modelling, and textures. So, how much is he charging for this update?
Nothing. It's for free. Free?
Thank you. So, if you're going to improve the clouds in-game, why not, improve the clouds like you did in the original Sky and Weather Enhancement Pack? Clouds are part of the weather, are they not? Why make people pay £40 just to improve the sky? Did you really borrow so much money from the Luton gangs or something? What's next? Are you going to make a snowdrift enhancement pack or an acid rain enhancement pack that melts any train built in Birmingham instantaneously? What about an I can't believe it's not butter enhancement pack? Personally, I'm still waiting for my cesium isotope enhancement pack, since I'm getting real bored with the cesium-137 lying around the house. I guess I should be impressed with how many different cloud patterns they've included. 275 is quite a big number, but yeah, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. This is the UK, remember. I see 275 cloud patterns a week. The clouds here are pretty much tethered to the ground with tow ropes anyway. Well, except that time last year when they all sodded off for a few days. Don't even think that this is because I have no interest in clouds and meteorology. Dude, I love meteorology, and the fact that there are so many different clouds that have been missed out is more insulting than anything. Want to know what I really wanted to see? Some tornadoes, dang it! I've always wanted to get a photo of a mortar spout off the coast, maybe North Wales or Brighton, and of course, the one time a tornado strikes my local city, it was in Welling. Why Welling? I don't want to go to Welling, my camera will get nicked and melted down to make marijuana. Maybe asking for like F5 tornadoes that quickscope your train are a bit too much to ask. Or perhaps I guess that's for the inevitable Cloud Enhancement Pack 2.0. Also, may I ask, where are the Northern Lights? I'll be honest, I didn't know that Aurora Borealis could occur in the UK, but according to the Met Office, turns out it can, mainly in the north, the west and in Scotland. Why not have a modifier that gives a 1 in 100 chance of the Northern Lights occurring if it's winter and nighttime? That would look fantastic! But by far, one of my favourite aspects of this stupid pack is the installation space needed. It takes up, get ready for this, 18 gigabytes of disk space. That's more than games like Bomb Rush, Cyberpunk, Freeman Planet 2, which, by the way, are cheaper than this. And, give me a second, let me just double check. Oh look, it's more than TF2. So Team Fortress 2 with its sauce spaghetti takes up a mere 15 gigabytes on your computer, as opposed to the 18 gigabytes for this mod! The final nail in the coffin of respect was when Mr. Armstrong finally rage-quitted after watching the majority of his customers telling him to sod right off after announcing the Cloud Enhancement Pack. He's now blocked all his comment sections on YouTube, Facebook, and I presume Twitter too, using the whole social media bad, we live in a society bottom tech shtick as a reason. Even though we all know why he did it, his pride was soiled because we don't want to buy some clouds. Also, everything I've said in these videos, including past Trains and News Show episodes, I'd say directly face to face. Make of that what you will, Mr. Armstrong, but this is what happens when you let fame cloud your judgment. And worldview. Yes, the sounds of most of your stuff is good, but you're not a god, you're just making mods for a niche video game. And if you're upset about getting mean comments, then I can't really help you more other than to say, grow up. Seriously, how does a generation of people raised off South Park, Family Guy, and The Simpsons get this offended this easily? The best thing I can say about the Armstrong Powerhouse is that he, along with many other companies we've seen, have given me direct first-hand experience on how not to make content for a video game and how not to respect your own customers. Before we reach our number 1 spot, I have some honourable mentions. Dovetail Games. Enough said. The other honourable mention goes to SK Trains, or Rail XL they renamed for some reason. Imagine the Armstrong Powerhouse but Belgian and not selling enhancement packs. There you go. Clover has been begging me to join his Discord server because apparently there's lots of antics and arguments going there regarding some trains and stuff, but the thing here is that there's obviously a language barrier because I cannot sprechen Deutsch or... I'm sorry. No, not... Sorry, I meant I can't Dutch, there we go, or French that well, enough to, you know, follow a conversation. So for that reason, I couldn't really put them anywhere on the list, per se, outside of honourable mentions. That being said, a lot of their trains are overpriced, they lag the game out like it's nothing, and they're making a Eurostar. Oh no. Oh, and I guess they're making some other Belgian trains I actually wouldn't mind using, even though they're kind of just whatever. Yeah, there you go. Now, let's move on to number 1. So what could be at number 1 on my list? It's not Dovetail Games, not the Armstrong Powerhouse or Dovetail, or the Alan Thompson cronies. Just Trains? Well, you know, they haven't really made that many stinkers, and I don't think they'd be qualified to be on the list, let alone on the top 5. So who could it be? Well, the answer is staring you in the face. That's right, you. You, the viewer, are the work. Just kidding, just kidding. It's UK Train Sim. UK Train Sim, or UKTS, a website that is old enough to drink and has been hosting plenty of content for various train-related games over the years. Not just MSTS and Railworks, but also BVE, Open Rails, Railroad Tycoon, and even those Hornby model railway games if anyone else played them like I did. Accounts are required for downloading, with premium membership offered for a subscription of, what was it, £20 a year? I forgot how much. However, in order for non-premium members to download something, like a route, reskin, scenario, whatever, you are first placed into a download queue, like your local Tesco. You are given a window like this, showing your position in the queue and, well, it's so out of date that it even tells you to disable your download manager. Bet most of you have no idea what a download manager is. I don't either. Once you're placed in front of the queue, you can then download at 10 kilobits a second. Let's do a demonstration with the download speeds on UK Train Sim. How long would it take to download this absolutely beautiful image of Harriet from Super Mario Odyssey? Why am I using this image of a busty bunny? Oh, it's because I want to, Dad! Anyway, the final size of this image is a mere 3.89 megabytes. Through UKTS's download speeds, ignoring the queue waiting time, it would take 6.5 minutes to download this single image. That is pathetically slow. Okay, now what about this humble reskin of the Class 506? Well, it's 21 megabytes, so that's basically a 35-minute wait. What about the I-Valley, one of my favourite routes made in Train Sim? 412 megabytes, so get ready for an 11-hour download time. Dublin to Roselair? That could be a 25-hour download. Keep in mind, one power cut, internet cutting off, or accidentally turning off your PC, then it's GG. You'll have to start all over again. And it's not like I'm slightly bitter due to this exact situation happening to me when I was younger and I was trying to download a route before going to school. Let's just say the download system could be a bit better. The crap download speeds made sense back in the day when 80% of us were still using dial-up, but that's not the case anymore. Technology has advanced quite a bit since 2002, as well as accessibility to the internet as a whole. Most people don't have to go down to the library PC or go to an internet cafe as much as they used to. It would have been really nice if something was done to speed up the downloads, at least enough to be not overtaken by dead snails. Oh, look how angry I got, and I haven't even got to the worst bit about the site, the forums, or as I like to call it, the Reich Chancellery. If you're a developer, especially a Railworks or Train someone, you were pretty much given a protection racket on the forums, and it made talking about their content really difficult if your opinion was slightly different from the others. Of course, this only applies if UKTS likes you, otherwise prepare for posts to get deleted. Hello, Iron Horsehouse. Don't even try posting memes either, the mods really don't like them in discussions. Some moderators have even been quite hostile, like here. Our moderation team, ladies and gentlemen, getting angry at someone who hasn't purchased a UK tier subscription. Hey, Bright Eyes, asking for donations is one thing, but we have a name for people who go around demanding and being rude to those who haven't donated or given money to you. No, it's not Yakuza. I was thinking more of bully or prick, but I'll accept Yakuza as well. I think I've mentioned this in the past, but our good old friend Geordie was pretty much booted off the UKTS forums due to, let's be honest, incompetent moderators. Yeah, I know I used the same word twice, but look, I found the screen cap he sent me of it happening, so let's have a quick read. It's a long post, so I'll make it scroll slowly in Vegas for you, though I won't read them all out just to save my voice. I still find it funny of just how angry these adults are getting at a phrase as harmless as unwashed masses. Whilst it can be taken as a derogatory term, I think context is really important. When comparing forums to social media, the forums can be seen as unwashed masses in the sense of the speed of communication. There's nothing to get angry about that, but considering how offended these adults were over the phrase unwashed masses, I really want to know how they react to this old meme here. But I can't test it out for two reasons. One, I'm on moderation. This means that every post I make on the forums is intercepted by the Gestapo, and then only when they like it, it gets through. Otherwise I get an email getting clear, or sometimes vague reasons as to why it was rejected.
You are accused of treason and anti-Soviet behavior. The court finds you guilty and sentences you to be shot.
I'm basically playing Air Trust Simulator. You know, that African country where all the press has to be approved by the government. Oh, and the second reason I can't test it, the site's closing down. As I've explained in a previous video earlier in the year, UKTS will be closing up shop in a few days. Their reason? It's too expensive. Whilst I could believe that, it was then when they said it cost £500 a month just to run the site that some red flags started to wave. How the hell could a site as basic as UKTS cost that much? Anytime this question was asked, it was met with silence, or heck, sometimes stupid comments like this. Thank you for adding nothing of value to the conversation, fellow human being. Also, when I say the site is going down, this includes the forums. Why? What do you get out of that? These forums have been around since the early 2000s and have pages among pages of valuable information and resources to the community. What now? Am I supposed to believe that running a forum is too expensive? When people brought this up, the same moderator we looked at earlier gave a rather nuanced suggestion. In this case, it was to go around and save the pages you want and paste them into Word documents. Well, that works if you want to save one or two topics, but it becomes slightly impractical when you want to archive the whole form. If we were to assume someone was some MLG speedrunner and took 10 seconds to save a single topic on the form, then it would take about 52 hours to save all the ones in the Train Sim Classic subsection. Not the Railworks, MSTS, or Open Rails, or just general forum chit-chat, just the Train Sim Classic section. And this is 52 hours of moving a mouse and right-clicking save as PDF for each page. The simple solution would obviously be just to keep the forms up, but UKTS is sadly no stranger to bad ideas after all. Obviously, with the closure of the site, lots, and I mean lots, of content could be potentially lost. Not just downloads, but also reviews that were posted, and links to other resources. Some things have been lost already, such as the CD content. So if you won't take matters into your own hands to solve this problem, I will. Looky here, everybody! It's the Dorset Coast CD jewel case I bought a few years ago. And if we open it up, we can see the CD itself. Now pay no attention as I make a folder on my computer and do my best to make a little backup. Why am I doing this?
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
There are some who will be watching this video and think that what I'm doing is unjustified, and I should just leave it alone because of the copyright. Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I believe all humans have a moral duty to preserve history in any feasible way possible. No, I'm not telling you to save every single chocolate bar wrapper, but media-related things, including this CD, should be salvaged whenever possible. If you think that it shouldn't, then I'm willing to listen to other viable suggestions that don't include giving up. I've done my best to try and get in touch with the creator of the route to see what he thinks about re-releasing the Dorset Coast CD. I found 2 emails on the README. One of them bounced, and the other one I haven't heard back from, what was it, just over a week. He hasn't been on UKTS for a while either, so that trail is most likely cold. It has been so long that some people involved in these projects and on UKTS have sadly passed away, and as sad as that is, using it as an excuse for not making backups and archiving this stuff is honestly deplorable. I've had a similar situation close to me, and I want to share it with you right now, so please take a look at this. These are pictures drawn by my late sister, Amy. Before she went 2 years ago, she was working on her own novel, a science fiction story which tackles the almost irreparable damage that sexual abuse on children can inflict. I want to take a moment of your time to show you just how much she put into this project. Here's a plush of one of the main characters named Alfred. In the novel, he owned a children's home somewhere in Surrey, ostracised by his own kind due to his birth defect making him a dwarf. I always remember poking fun at his design with her, calling him Asriel but he supports Thatcher. But man, she hated the Undertale references I made, but I do like his design. Here's a picture of Aureus, one of the deities in her world. It's quite entertaining to see just how her idea of a deity is almost the exact opposite of how I present deities in my own novel that I'm writing. But yeah. One of the other characters is named Galanthus, that has what I can only describe as a sick looking bow. Something like this looks right out of a Tim Burton movie. I love it, but it's a shame that none of my characters are archers. I don't want to watch my sister's work wither away like this. So how am I going to make use of her characters? Especially when her novel was a bit more serious than the cast of individuals that I have for mine. Well, I thought a good idea would be to implement her race of creatures, the Inkmarks, as members of societies in my novel. There are multiple planets and alien species in my novel, and the idea of a species that lives on a small planet and focuses on the exportation of exotic fruits, vegetables, spices and textiles wouldn't be that far-fetched. In fact, fiction often mirrors reality, or a small company called the Dutch East India Company, which did roughly the same thing and at its peak was worth about £7 trillion, which is enough to buy a house. This is how I'm paying respects to the dead. How are you doing it? Oh yeah, that's right, by not doing anything. Lost media is lost media, and I'm frankly sickened that UKTS has been doing everything to not look after their own community-created content. Content that has been 2 decades in the making. Post the content somewhere else? Copyright. The copyright of who? The creators. Are you getting in touch with them? Do you have any working contact details? Do you think the creators would be upset if you moved their stuff onto Dropbox or Google Drive as opposed to losing them forever? These are the questions that you, Mr. Peddleston, should be answering and finding out for yourself, not me. And how do UKTS respond when you push and shove to offer help, even financially, by saying no? And that's if you're lucky. The owner of TrainSim.com, another old MSTS and Railworks download site, has been trying to get in touch with the Peddlestons for quite some time with the offer to take the site off their hands, only to be constantly ignored, with his emails getting no replies, his forum posts not being approved, even forcing him to use other users as proxies just to get the message. This is easily why UKTS is on my list. The site sucks, the download system sucks, the form sucks, the moderators suck, the admins suck, the overall environment is abandoned and outdated to an almost comical degree. And when help is coming in droves, they push it away and stick their fingers in their ears. Oh sure, the owners don't paste your face onto porn if they don't like you. Their ego isn't scratching the International Space Station, nor do they have over 9,000 pieces of DLC for sale. But the closure of both the forums and the site will do unrivaled damage to the community, especially people working on projects both MSTS and Train Simulator related. I cannot fathom how someone could be this tone deaf to a problem like this. UKTS is a single-hulled oil tanker from the 70s. It's a Boeing 787 that needs a flight engineer, a Bugatti Veyron with 6 on the floor, a clutch pedal, and still running on 4-star petrol. And if you have to pause the video to Google what 4-star even is, then my analogy works better than ever. A point proven by how apparently even paying for HTTPS was too much to ask. Fortunately, there are people out there doing their best to save as much stuff as they can. British Locomotive Studios did a campaign earlier in the year when this all started, and there's also the Train Sim Safe House as well. Many thanks to those individuals and anyone else who has been doing their best to save their stuff. Knighthoods will be offered once I obviously come to power. However, none of this would be happening if the Pedalsons managed UKTers with some degree of respect and sensibility. But I guess that's now just too much to ask. And that concludes my list on the top 10 stupid nonsense I've experienced in Train Sim. Oh, just finished pretty much the majority of the editing as I'm recording this, but oh man, it feels like I've got a massive weight off my chest. I really hope that 70 minutes of Train Sim news content is enough for you. I understand if you're a bit upset that I won't be going back to Train Sim content, at least on a new show style basis. There's no reason to unless something significant happens. It's good to broaden your horizons. One YouTuber I do like watching, giving out his opinions on Train Simulator, is the Trainspotter from Taronga. This Kiwi is another member of society who isn't afraid to give out his own opinions, and that is what we need to see more of. I've linked his channel in the description if you want to check it out. He also films trains in a small island called New Zealand, whatever that is. Oh, and on an unrelated note, I really like Kiwis in general. Not the fruit, the bird. Look at that, it's absolutely adorable. That's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for joining me in not only this video, but all my other videos, Train Simulator related, new show or not. From the first episode to this episode. Whether you've agreed with what I said or not is not really of my concern, but the fact that you've listened is honestly the most important aspect. It tells me that you have a degree of rational thinking going, well, I don't agree what this person says about the IET, but I'm not gonna let it get to me. Broaden your horizons as you set sail across the internet. Maybe SimRail will be the game that finally dethrones the Train Simulator series. Or it will fizzle out because they forget to add modding support. Only time can tell regarding that. Thank you very much for watching these videos, and goodbye.
Is it over? Not to the fist jumps!